I've got fond memories of the Usk, all the way from Source to sort of Brecon anyway.
How old are you?
Oh, I'm 85 now, but right, that's enough about me. It's about the Usk River, I understand, and the Usk River sprang from the Black Mountain, not to be confused with the Black Mountains in the East End of the county, the Black Mountain. The source is in between Llyn y Fan Fawr and Llyn y Fan Fach, with the famous legend of the Lady of the Lake.
There's a story associated with this area that is quite well known, and that's the Lady of the Lake from Llyn y Fan Fach. And you can see it as you walk up the back of the farm here. You sort of look straight into the cirque, because it's an old quarry lake. And my grandfather was living with us for some time, and he would say, well, you know, the lady came out of the lake and she brought with her this bounty of animals, and this woman who maybe represented nature says to the farmer, don't strike me. If you strike me 3 times, then I will leave, I will go. I think that's the nature's message to humanity. I will give bountifully if you treat me well, but if you push and keep pushing and then push too hard, I will just take everything away from you and you'll be left with nothing. And then you will realise how much you needed me. So that was a story that he used to tell me, as we would be rounding up the sheep from the top there, maybe for shearing or dipping or something like that, or just moving them. That was his interpretation of that story, which always stuck with me.
A very cultural community, bards and rich culture, and we benefited from that. It was a rich Welsh tradition.
I remember my father telling me they'd all come to his farm on the way to the Eisteddfod over in Hermon in Trecastle, and they'd ride over and then leave the ponies in the barns and then all walk down to Hermon Chapel to compete in the Eisteddfod. And a friend next door would teach them to say these poems and things like that.
Where did you all play?
Only in the playground, in the river, and you know.
So the fields and the mountains and the river were your playground?
That's right, yes. There was no playground, no playground, nothing at all. And then they did tarmac a part of the playground, I remember, so we could chalk out and play hopscotch. Hopscotch was, and there we were all in our naily boots. And if we were thirsty when we were playing, there was a little belonging to a part of the Cray River. There was, they had, well, the spout, we used to call it, you know. It was a little pipe coming out to the rocks, and we'd all be there drinking. But we all survived. Yes, yes.
It's a freshwater spring.
But probably better than a lot of things, you know, healthier. Yes, there we are.
And
but
what things did you play in the river then?
Well, getting soaking wet and trying to catch fish.
Prynhawn da. My name is Edwina Jones, and I've lived within half a mile of the River Esk all my life, just over 50 years. I was brought up in Brecon, near on Ship Street, which is literally just up the road from the river bridge over the Esk. But as a child, we never used to play in the river because it was quite dangerous, and sadly there'd been a few deaths in the river. I always remember in the 70s, I think it must have been, for me to be of any use to help, they'd had a big flood, and we went to help them. It was sad to see all their things destroyed outside their houses. And then I went into the kitchen the water had gone by now and we were just cleaning up after it. And I thought they were very posh because they had like brown melamine shelves in the cupboards. But on further inspection, it was the silt from the river, and it had just left a perfect line all over the shelves. So it took a lot of clearing and quite a lot of heartbreak for those living that side of the river.
The big day of the year was a shearing day. And farmers in those days, you see, they were not contractors like they are now. Then neighbours used to get together and, you know, it was a big party shearing day. And then the kids used to come home from school and they'd all go to wherever they were shearing and joining in the tea. We'd have these big washing tubs, you know, and boxes. Everything that was needed by way of food and crockery, we carted everything up to Afon Wysg.
There's a fantastic pool there, Pwll Bryn, where farmers used to wash their sheep to ease shearing with the hand shearers, and they weren't so greasy. And but you know, when machines came more popular, and you know, it wasn't deemed necessary.
And how did it ease the wool then, the fleece?
Well, you can get, there's a lot of grease in the wool, and if you didn't shear in a few days, the grease would come back. Combs now, they clog up with grease, but you know, you scrape them and it comes off. Whereas with the hand shears, it wasn't so easy. It's also a very good pool if you want to, a good long pool if you want to do a bit of wild swimming. And it's also a very secluded path if you want to go without your swimsuit.
Well, anyway, but my memories of going up to Afon Wysg, to Uncle Lucas, was very special. And it was a magnificent house where he lived, and that was practically on the source of the Usk. They were blind, it was called Afon Wysg. Blaen is the beginning, and Wysg is the river. And I used to have a lot of fun down there. I had a long stick and a piece of cord, and probably a salmon tin or something, and I'd be fishing and catching minnows. And getting soaking wet.
I also remember lots of stories about the salmon and the trout, and as a child I remember my father saying about, there were poachers out and the bailiffs were down the river and you could see the lamps of the bailiffs. It always reminded me of the story when my father was young. They used to go tickling trout in probably the tributaries of the Esk.
What's the whole tickling thing? Like, did people tickle? Because they've heard it, but do they literally tickle or?
Oh no, just
grab it.
grab it. Not much at a tickle, perhaps. Once you had you got him. But it was just a term that was used.
What are your favourite memories of the river when you were younger?
Well, they were sort of, am I going to be honest? We'll say no more. Yeah.
Watching other people fishing?
Well, they were, yeah. Don't draw me on that one.
In the 1950s, construction began on the Usk Reservoir, which led to the loss of 7 farms.
You had Comene, Tircyd, Trawswn D and Pencar, Pentre Bach, Blaen Wysg and Blaen Ddôl. Pre-war, Swansea were desperate for extra water, The Swansea Corporation acquired all the farmland to create a reservoir to supply water to Swansea.
Well, anyway, came the time now that Costains, the contractors, were building the reservoir, and of course the Usk Reservoir was in the front line. So the farmers did know that eventually what would happen, they'd have to go from their homes. And one of those, of course, being at the source of the Usk, was my uncle. As a child, then I remember he was a staunch bachelor, no women near the place.
It is inevitable then that people lost their homes and had to move away.
But Uncle Lucas, you see, we wondered now, well, what is he thinking? You know, he was a bachelor and he had quite a big sheep walk, and that was his life, sheep, nothing else.
But he's a learned gent, and you know, books and sort of quite a character.
The Costains now were near completion, and the farmers, some of the farmers were lucky, they'd found places, but one or two were not so lucky. But Uncle Lucas, I don't think he looked for anything. I think he had it in his mind, I know where I'm going to go. And the day came that it was the end of, now they were beginning to drown the site. And he went up to the top, I can see it vividly, to the top of the little mound there. And he sat there now while the bulldozers bulldozed the house down. And what did he do then? He walked then a few miles to us in Belfont. And my dad said to him, his brother now, "Oh, a ble wyt ti'n mynd? Where are you going?" "Wy'n dod yma," he said, "I'm coming here." Well, and I remember they decided straight away. And that's where he came, and he was with us for a few years. He had a room of his own with hundreds of books, full of books. And that's where he passed away very suddenly, yes.
Well, it was a time Swansea deemed they needed more water, and like so many valleys that have been drowned or threatened to be drowned, it's very hard to look back and say, "Oh, it wasn't needed." It's very hard to do that. At the time, it was deemed necessary to do it. I don't know, do they utilise all this water well enough? That's something I'd question.